This hour, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has ordered strict measures and tightening of state emergency to control the outbreak of COVID-19. Kim Jong-un presided over a meeting of the politburo of the ruling Workers' Party. The meeting comes at a time of economic and political uncertainty, which is putting pressure on North Korea's economy. North Korea is facing a number of international sanctions aimed at paralyzing its nuclear program. This was Kim Jong-un's first public appearance in 25 days, and he stressed upon the need to keep a high alert and intensify the anti-epidemic work. The officials at the meeting also discussed an unspecified serious crime, as they called it. It was allegedly committed by party officials at the Pyongyang University of Medicine. Other officials at the Central Committee and other government agencies shielded, connived and fostered the crime, they said. However, it was not specified if the crime was related to the spread of coronavirus. So far, North Korea has tested more than 12,000 people for COVID-19 and no confirmed cases have been reported as of early November. A total of 6,173 people were suspected cases of COVID-19 and 8 of them were foreigners. 174 people were quarantined in the last week of October. Kim Jong-un had called for the country to embark upon an 80-day campaign to attain its goal in every sector before the next 5-year plan is decided. For more, Bruce Harrison is joining us live from Seoul. Bruce, thanks so much for joining us on this broadcast. My first question, why is Kim Jong-un holding a meeting on coronavirus now? For the longest time, the country had maintained that it is COVID-19 free. Is there a fear of the outbreak wreaking further havoc on the economy? And also, what is this mysterious crime being spoken of at the meeting?
Priyanka, because we're seeing more and more out of North Korean state media about the coronavirus, I think there is definitely a fear there that A, it could spread further than it's already spread in the country despite North Korea's claims, or B, it could be initially spreading for the first time and they're just starting to get to grips on the actual impact this virus could have on their economy and their people. North Korea shut down its borders very early in the global pandemic, as early as January, so there is reason to believe, very little according to a lot of governments, but reason to believe they may have contained the virus at the outset. It's just hard to say because they claimed it hasn't impacted people within the country yet. According to the U.S. military, there are shoot-to-kill orders as far as the border. South Korean intelligence has said North Korea has laid landmines at its border with China. A lot of steps to make sure it doesn't enter the borders. As far as that mysterious crime, South Korean intelligence, once again, they haven't indicated they know anything about that. We're only leaning on North Korean state media at this time. And like you said, they didn't specify whether this is related to the coronavirus or otherwise. But because Kim held such an important meeting about it, I think there are some suspecting that there may be issues with COVID-19 within the country and certain people are taking the blame.
Right. Now, Bruce, as we know, information from North Korea is very hard to come by. And is there any clarity about the scale of economic loss reported in North Korea in the face of international sanctions and, of course, the pandemic?
Yeah, and it wasn't just COVID-19 and international sanctions this year, Priyanka. There was also some serious weather disasters impacting North Korea as well. Multiple typhoons plagued the Korean peninsula, a lot of flooding that damaged massive acreage of crops and infrastructure. We saw Kim Jong-un earlier this year touring some of those locations, photos that were shared through North Korean state media, and they reported it was quite devastating. So threefold between allegedly the impact of COVID-19 as well as the sanctions and the natural disasters we've seen this year, North Korea seems to be struggling. But at this time, I think a lot of analysts would suggest that China is going to do its best to keep North Korea on its feet. And if you just look back last month, that military parade in North Korea, they're obviously still developing very powerful weapons. So the sanctions aren't hitting that production process. Whether or not there's food for all the people or money is going to other places, at least it's going to the military still.
Right. Bruce, just shifting focus a little bit here. Now, Kim Jong-un seemingly has been silent on the victory of President-elect Joe Biden in the United States. So what kind of relations will North Korea enjoy with the U.S. going forward?
Well, that's interesting. It's really hard to say right now. President Trump has yet to concede the race. By all accounts, it looks like Mr. Biden will take over with the new administration from January 20th. I think the general idea is that Biden may fall back on a more traditional diplomatic track, one working from the bottom to the top, and it'd be very unlikely to see Mr. Biden sit down with Kim Jong-un if they follow those policies. President Moon Jae-in here in South Korea and both Kim Jong-un seem to be rooting for President Trump, at least, if anything, to continue meetings between North Korea and Washington. Beyond that, it's unclear what could take place between the two countries. I mentioned China a little bit earlier. That's a really strategic piece of the puzzle. If China is able to support North Korea throughout this difficult time, and the U.S. sanctions aren't really taking grip, the U.S. may not have much leverage as far as talks go with North Korea. And the U.S. has so many domestic crises to take care of right now. Foreign policy may be way down the road.
Right. All right, Bruce, thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast and for all your insights.